All right, it's Bruce at you with Targeted Wealth Creation. Happy Saturday, peoples. All right, let's jump in here. What took place on Friday? Well, it's kind of ugly. It's certainly in MSTY and in Mr. So let's start with Mr. Mr. was down a whopping 9.7%. And we, being Ms. MSTY, was down 6.02, down to 28.89. One of the guys in my Discord mentioned this, and it's kind of ironic because I've been thinking about this, because you get some of these knuckleheads saying to you, oh, you know, it's like a quote. It's like somebody wrote this, and a hater of Yilmax just repeats it, whether they fully understand it, you know, they all believe it. So they always say, oh, yeah, that's the problem. You know, it's all return of capital. You're limited. You're never going to get more than 15% upside, and you have 100% of the downside, you know. And no matter what you tell them, it just bounces off. But anyway, somebody in my Discord said to me, you know, you should take your gain columns and, you know, do something on the percentage. Well, it's kind of ironic. For those of you who've been watching my YBit, I have a tab down here where I compare, I think maybe it's not in YBit, I think it's in GDXY. Yeah, I did it in GDXY. And I actually have a whole section where I compare the prices, right? So here's GDXY, it fell 1.8 and GDX fell 1.9. So I award 1 point to the fund that if they both go down, who went down the least? And if they both go up, then who went up the most, right? And I've been tracking that for 22 days, and 12 times GDXY has been the winner, and 10 times GDX has been the winner. So I was thinking about this column. So what I did, and just give you some nuance, so anybody that doesn't care, just skip forward a minute or two. But I think it's telling. I did take out, remember, every month we reset. As soon as we announce on Declaration Day how much we're going to pay, then the next pre-market open, it's automatically subtracted out. As soon as that after hours is over, that number gets taken out. So the open, when, you know, pre-market, is already minus that dividend. Every dividend stock ETF works that way. It's just on the real little ones you'd never even notice, right? But on somebody that pays $3 or $4, you're gonna see that, or even $2 on a $20. So I don't think it's fair to compare those. You may want to know that, because when you're tracking total return, you say how much was I paid, and then you take the current NAV versus what you paid, and you have two separate yields, right? You say, oh, I got 85% on my money in 12 payments, and then I only had a 11% gain from the price I paid. So you add those two together, 85 and 11, so you had a 96% return if you're comparing apples, right, the exact same time. Because when you annualize a yield, you have to figure out how many days did you hold it and what percentage of a year is that. But if you just want a simple number, you can just take whatever you have over whatever period. So when I'm, you know, looking at the gain here and the gain here, I call it beat. I want to know what the beat value is. Who won and how much did they win by? So if you take the NAV out, it's almost always going to be the other fund outperformed. But because you're receiving that in a different category. So I start it the next day, right? This is the day. You can see right here, this one was down 2% and MSTR, and MSTY was down 909. Well, why? Because they announced and declared on 6/5, and this is the ex-dividend date, right? So I make this one just part of the next, and I coated it blue. And all the oranges, including that blue, get added together, And it's sort of like a cumulative. So right now, MSTY is outperforming MSTR by a total of 8.45%. And how can it even outperform? Well, it's collecting revenue when they're going down, so its percentage doesn't tend to go down as much. And that's always the argument that I tell these guys that are just convinced, or they'll try a trickery. They'll say, well, it has up to 100% of the downside. Not even really true there, right? Not if you're collecting yield along the way. You know, theoretically, it has 100%, right? If all it had was the buy, call, sell, put, then absolutely, that's mimicking being long, and it's going to do 100%. But by selling these covered call strategy, which are actually naked calls, they collect yield. So anyway, I thought I would start tracking this, and then when I get to the next payout, I'll start it over again. It's never going to change the mind of people who are hung up on trying to tell new people going into YieldMax or anybody, you know, I call them the know-it-alls. They know everything, but they really know very little because they're just passing along what they're hearing from other people. Or, like I said, a lot of them are Tesla buyers that, you know, FOMO'd in, got a big loss, got out, and now they're hating on YieldMax and they're hating on Tesla and blaming them instead of blaming themselves. So, okay, enough of that. Let me get into the data. So what did we do? Well, other than being an ugly day, look at the 628s. This was the one I was worried about. Where's the 1435? They ended up paying $335, but they collected 22.1. This thing was like $60. They ran by it, right? So there's always a little blessing. You know, it's kind of like saying there's a blessing in a dark cloud. Somewhere in there, something good happened. And clearly, we captured, you know, and look at our percentages. Wait till you see holding. I mean, we collected 99.23% of everything. This was the only one that even had any real amount, right? We had collected, we had been paid 190, and we ended up keeping 161. Everything else is peanuts, you know, 4,174,000, and we had to buy it back for 7,200. So you see the 3 cents, the 2 cents, the nickel, and nickel. So really, really a good job, and more to do with the fact that it fell. If it would have fell to 1430 instead of 1377, we would have done just as well. So what we have, I'm going to go quicker. Sorry about the rant, but sometimes I just like to educate as well. I think it's the teacher part of me. Okay, so they didn't do any synthetics because nobody bought into the fund. They're still at 10,500,000 shares. So they didn't put on any new synthetics, but by closing these out, they wrote a new one. And they wrote the new one at 1505. So we had the small amount at 1540, and we wrote them at 1505, and look at where it is. It's 1377. So we're 9.26% on this 4.6 million. So that looks pretty good. Let's jump over to holdings, because actually, let's do the weekly. So here they are, right? You're 9.26 and 11.8. We've already captured, I think, like 80% of this. It's small, but we've only captured 2% because what we wrote these at is what they closed at, right? So they're basically the same number. And these all expire next week, but remember, they're in the piggy bank for declaration day and knowing what the money is in there. So we're 28, 89, and 13. Let's jump over to holding. So there's your 99.73. Only in MSTY have I been doing this because they often have so many calls. So I separated last week versus what they wrote down here. And then my next update, I just wiped these out and I dragged these back up there. But this way you get to see it, right? They collected 5.629 and they had to spend 38,000, so they collected 99.32. This guy they've already collected, you know, they got paid 138,550 with 5 days of trading. They could buy it back for 39,000. But this one is the one they just put on, and they sold it for 23.5, and the closing price is 23.5. So technically, they're up 2.8%. It shows you how small this is in contracts compared to the big guy there. So, you know, Misty's hanging in there. It wasn't a great month. Like I said, very likely $1 in the dollar range. We'll see. Fair value is 28.89. It is calculating at 28.26. Again, people like Misty regardless of all this. Now, with a low $1 payment, maybe people won't be diving in, right? And I had some people tell me, oh, Bruce, I sold some of my Misty and I bought more Coney. And I think it was last month I did the opposite, right? I sold a big percentage of my Coney and put the money in Misty. And I'll make some determination. I'm not always going to share what I'm doing because I don't want to influence somebody else to go where I'm going that maybe shouldn't be putting that much money in a fund or something. You know, I'm not a financial advisor. Obviously, I've been doing this for 35, 40 years in terms of it, and the products have changed. So you always want to help people. But sometimes, you know, some lessons you just have to learn. So where's our synthetic? Well, we're at 33.6, right? Because we went backwards big time, right? From 1,500 to 1,377. So look here. We had gotten down to 3 million, you know, 4 million, 3.9. We're back at 33 million. But again, from an MSTR, from a Misty, you know, it's got, what is it, 3 weeks left? Oh, it's on my, I always do that lately. I'm looking there instead of here. 20 days, yeah. So it's not far, peoples, not far at all. Okay, so here we are, right, it's 3 Fridays. So when Friday closed, it had 3 weeks on 7/19. So it's 11% out. Heck, this fund can go 10% in a day, you know, with MSTR. So that's what I got for you. Let's go to payouts. And not a lot changed, right? I mean, we did sell some more here. Oh, let me make sure I captured that. I am going to P47. That is now needs to go to P49. Oh, yeah, I don't have it in there, peoples. Let's go get it. That will make that number bigger. All right. Yeah, it's up to $1.61. You betcha. This is the new money that we put in the piggy bank, right? That won't be settled when they declare Tuesday evening and announce early Wednesday morning. So I'm showing $1.59. I'm basically showing all the money they collected. You know what? They could give us $2 if they just wanted to pull it out of their hair, you know. So, but I'm going to go with $1.61. How's that? And say they're going to give us a 66 and hope like heck it's $2, right? Because I don't think they're much worried about the 33 million liability, not in MSTR, and not with its history. So, hey, guys, I'm going to say 161 and hope like heck for $2. You just never know, right? So we won on our 628. We've now sold on our 7.5. Okay, that's what I got for you. Again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.